Hello, everyone. I'm Deidre Razak. I'm a training and coaching specialist with the Vermont Child Welfare Training Partnership. Today, Joan Rock and I will be teaching you ways to create mindful moments and greater ease with kids. This is part of our Kinship Connections series. Because we're filming from home, you might hear some background noises. If you're joining us on our live call, we'll pause the video a few times to have discussions. If you're watching the video, we'll also have you pause a few times to try things out and jot down your thoughts so that you can apply these ideas to your family. So here are the things we're going to discuss today. What is mindfulness and how does it work? What are some ways to practice mindfulness? What trips us up? What makes it hard to be mindful? How to parent mindfully, and how to help kids practice mindfulness. So what does mindfulness mean? Mindfulness is noticing what is happening within you and around you right now without judgment. And if that last part feels too hard, if you're judging what's happening, that's okay. Noticing is the first step. As you practice and grow your skill, you'll start to notice pockets of freedom from judgment. So mindfulness is the pause that helps us flow more easily with whatever is happening. There's a poem that I think illustrates this well, and I'm going to read it for you. It's by Rumi, and it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So just take a moment to breathe in the message of that poem. Okay, now we're going to look at some myths about mindfulness.
Mindfulness is a word that gets batted around a lot lately. Sometimes we think it means meditation and that we need a lot of time. If you do it right, you'll never get angry. You'll never have a bad day. Other people might be good at that, but I don't think I have the time or focus for that. And it's used sometimes in crazy ways. While I was planning this workshop, I found a chart that said 30 days of mindful deeds, and they were all things to do for other people. Donate a toy, smile at everyone you see. Those things might be kind, but they are not mindfulness. Mindfulness is focused presence. There are many ways to practice mindfulness and many techniques that can help us. My personal experience was that I didn't believe in mindful practice. I thought some of these myths were true, that it takes a lot of time, that it's only meditation. I've grown so much in the last 5 years, and it took some practice. We'll look together at some of those. So mindfulness takes practice, but what does that mean? This video shows us.
Imagine you're walking down a street. It's a street you know well, maybe one you walk down every single day. But you're so caught up in your own thinking, wondering what you're going to have for lunch, thinking back to a conversation you had earlier, that you end up falling down a hole. Now at the bottom of this hole, you find yourself thinking, how did I end up here? Worse yet, the next day, you do the exact same thing. And then again, the next day. May not sound like an especially cheerful idea, but as an analogy for the mind, it's really helpful. Because so often, we follow the same habits of mind, over and over again. And so we find ourselves in an emotional hole, maybe even a place that's really painful. But imagine if you started just noticing, being more aware of your surroundings. Sure, maybe next time you'd realize a little too late and you'd still end up in the hole again. But maybe the time after that, you'd notice the hole and choose to walk around it instead. This is what it means to train the mind. This is what it means to have headspace.
Mindfulness changes how brains work. It helps our hearts work better. It is good for us in so many ways. Here is another video that illustrates this point.
Learning to meditate is a little like learning to surf. In the same way that the ocean has many different moods, so does the mind. Sometimes it feels easy, even relaxing. At other times, it feels challenging, perhaps overwhelming. But as we spend more time in the water or more time with the mind, we come to know these different conditions. We begin to better understand what kind of approach is required each day. Some days, we'll need to apply a little more effort to stay balanced. On others, we experience almost effortless practice, or at least moments of it anyway. And as we become more stable in our practice, more balanced in our approach, we begin to feel more confident. Most important of all, we come to accept that although we can't control the waves, we can always learn how to ride them.
So now we're going to look at some tools that support you. You don't have to compare your practice to anyone else's. Really honor what helps you to be present. So for you, what works might change over time. You might need to do a different kind of mindfulness practice every day, or do one for a week and then change to something else. Or for you, what works might be one thing that once you hit upon it, you do that consistently for the next 5 years. So practice is key. It's like building a muscle. Mindfulness takes practice. And remember that what works for you is whatever you'll actually do. So after this class, we hope that you'll really take some time to think about your own experience as a kinship caregiver and how mindfulness can support you. We've got a few ideas for you to think about. So, sometimes it's hard to be mindful as a kinship caregiver because, for example, a child's behavior might make you think about something that their parent did that was hard for you. And if you're dealing with a lot of different family members, emotions, and behaviors, that's just a lot to take on. So some ways that you might use mindfulness, you might set an intention in the morning, something like, let me be fully present to what happens today, and let me honor my own needs along with everyone else's. Another thing you might do is, when a child's behavior starts to upset you, you might just remember to breathe. It will show, as we go through the class today, you'll see some more tools that you'll be able to use as well. But we hope that you really think about small ways that these tools can help you, things that are relatively easy to do. So now we're going to look at a few of those techniques. So there are so many different techniques that you can use. And we're going to look at what a few of them might be here. And below the video, we'll give you more full examples of how to use these techniques. And after the class, we'll send you those techniques in an email. So the first one is just when the phone rings or when you're at a red light, just pause. You can pause and breathe. You could say an affirmation to yourself. You could ask yourself how you're doing. The next one is to name what you're doing. So, if you're drumming your fingers on the table, just notice to yourself, drumming, drumming. If you're looking around, think looking, looking. So just, if you're walking, if you're cooking, just name what you're doing, and that can help you to be more present in the moment. Another technique is square breathing. So you can do this sitting or lying down. And the idea is just to literally, when you breathe into the count of 4, and then you hold that breath for the count of 4. You let it out for the count of 4, and you wait 4 beats before you start breathing again. And if you do that a few times, that can be a supportive practice. Another one is really basic, just the acronym STOP. So literally stop what you're doing, take a breath, observe what's happening within you and around you, and then decide how you'll proceed. Finally, soft focus. So when I stop talking, a candle will appear. And I want you to pause this video and focus your eyes gently on the candle flame. Choose a word that's something you'd like to feel. Maybe it's calm or brave or joy. And just repeat that to yourself for a moment while you look at the flame. And then after you've tried this soft focus, continue pausing the video and just notice what it's like to think about these different mindfulness techniques.
What keeps us from being mindful? One thing is shark music. We're going to watch a video that teaches us about it.
Parents. Throughout history, we've struggled to get it right. We hope we won't pass on our emotional issues to our kids, and we swear we won't make the same mistakes our parents did. We all have great intentions, but something seems to get in the way. Let's look at what that might be. At Circle of Security Parenting, we believe that being emotionally available to our children and their needs is the key to doing our best as parents. We call emotional availability being with. It means teaching emotional intelligence by being with our children in all their feelings, like sadness, joy, anger, curiosity, pain, frustration, excitement, and so on. Being with children helps them understand, trust, and move on from feelings. And knowing someone is with them in their feelings helps children feel less overwhelmed and more secure. Decades of research backs this up. For parents, some of this comes easily, but other times our children express emotions that make us uncomfortable, so we pull away or try to overrule their feelings, which leaves them on their own. We do this because our children's feelings can trigger strong emotions in us. We think of it like this: our history during childhood of how core people responded to our different emotions creates the background music for how we experience our children's feelings. Let's look at this example. This girl and her father have been enjoying time together in the park, but suddenly aware of the time, Dad says, "We need to go." When the girl hears this, she starts crying and gets increasingly angry. All at once, the dad's background music changes. The background music that is playing for the father right now, we call shark music. As it turns out, the dad's own mother was uncomfortable with loud displays of emotion, and she didn't know how to handle them. So throughout his childhood, she repeatedly told her son it was pathetic to cry, and she never ever asked him about his feelings of sadness or anger. His ability to deal with his daughter's emotion now is greatly affected by the experience with his mother then. Shark music, we're rarely aware it's playing, but it's our past experiences telling us to be afraid of or uncomfortable with a feeling or need that is actually safe. When our shark music limits our ability to respond to these feelings, our children learn to hide or feel ashamed of them. This is a problem because we're teaching our children to fear emotions that are actually both safe and essential in life. Most of us experience shark music with one emotion or another, and it's different for everyone. But whenever it is triggered, our ability to respond to our children's needs is limited. The good news is, by simply calling it by name and reflecting on what our children need in the moment, we can turn down our shark music. This is so important because if we can learn to manage our history of negative experiences and perceptions, we can respond to the truth of our child's current situation and be with them in it. Ultimately, this will help our children grow up with a better ability to understand and share more of the emotions they experience. There's no escaping it. Strong feelings are a challenge to manage as parents, but our children always benefit when we have an accurate response to what's happening, rather than reacting to the shark music we're bringing into the relationship. Remember, there's no such thing as perfect parenting, and blame never helped anyone feel more secure. That includes blaming ourselves. But the more often we can identify our shark music, the better off our children will be.
So sometimes hearing shark music does happen with our kids. It can happen in other areas of our life too, with our partners or at work. Knowing what our shark music is and having a plan for what we'll do when it happens can help. But first you have to notice that it's happening, and that action of noticing is mindfulness. Here is an example from my own life. A lot of times when I think about getting ready for work on a Monday morning, I hear some shark music. It comes in the form of anxiety for me. When I first started practicing mindfulness, I thought square breathing was kind of ridiculous. Um, Now, when I find anxiety creeping in, I take a pause and I do some square breathing for about a minute or two. And I find that it's really helpful to give me focus and to be present in that moment. And it doesn't feel ridiculous anymore. So when you are feeling anxious about parenting in some way, you could try square breathing too.
So now we'll think about applying all of this to mindful parenting. And so mindful parenting means that you bring your conscious attention to what's happening instead of getting hijacked by your emotions, instead of getting hijacked by that shark music. So I'm going to tell you some strategies and the reasons why they can be helpful. And then again, below the video or in an email after class, we'll give you more information about how to actually practice these strategies. So 3 key factors. One is noticing your own feelings when you're in conflict with a child. The second is learning to pause before you respond in anger. And the third is listening carefully to the child's viewpoint, even if you disagree with it. And so using these 3 factors, these strategies that we'll teach you later, it takes practice, and our ability to control our emotions really changes depending on what's going on in each moment. That's why self-care is so important. We can't pour out all of ourselves every day and never take the time to fill back up. Many parents feel guilty for taking care of their own needs. That's not selfish, though, it's necessary. Making yourself a priority, because the better you feel, the better you'll be able to manage the frustrations that arise, is really healthy. So it's important to learn how to help yourself and how to meet your own emotional needs. So some examples of self-care can range from things like taking a time out by hiding in the bathroom when you can't handle your kids, or taking a few moments of deep breathing, or putting the television on so that you and your kid can get a break. You could also write in a journal, or take a shower, or go for a walk, or talk with a partner or a friend. Sometimes we can't catch ourselves in time and we do react in ways we regret, but in those moments we can apologize to our kids because we're still learning and parents make mistakes too. And this also teaches kids that it's okay for them to make mistakes and to notice it and to talk about it afterwards. So there are many benefits to mindful parenting, but 3 of them are that you become less critical of yourself and the child, you become better at standing back from situations and avoiding impulsive reactions, and your relationship with the child will improve.
You might not all want to teach your kids mindful practices, but if you do, here are some tips. As Brene Brown has said, we can't give our children what we don't have ourselves. If we aren't practicing mindfulness, we can't teach it to our children. This doesn't mean that they have to see us meditating every day, but it does mean that we need personal experience with the challenges and benefits of mindfulness discipline before we can teach it to others. Depending on ages and willingness, you can do something that's guided, like Cosmic Kids. They have yoga and mindfulness videos and some guided meditations for kids. Headspace, who created the 2 videos we just watched, also is on YouTube. So you can access both Headspace and Cosmic Kids on YouTube. Name what you're doing. You can say, I've noticed that sometimes I hold my breath. So this is kind of silly, but now every time the dog barks, I'm going to try to remember to take a deep breath. Practice during calm times so that during a hard time, if you say, let's try taking a deep breath, it's not coming straight out of left field. When you get ready to teach specific mindfulness skills, choose an activity that will resonate with your child. My own daughter said yesterday that writing and making art help her to be mindful. Carla Nomberg says the whole idea is to get them to slow down and pay attention in a way that makes sense to them. My daughter is incredibly picky about food and doesn't enjoy much taste or flavor. So the simple raisin meditation, which means you pick up a raisin, you roll it around in your fingers and feel its texture, you smell it, you might taste it. That's raisin meditation. This probably wouldn't be a good choice for her. She is a very visual person, however, so we use a glitter wand, something similar to a snow globe, or a glitter jar that you can make right at home. We shake it up and then just watch the glitter fall to the bottom. My younger daughter loves music and sound, so a good option for her is to ring a bell and then listen until the sound fades completely away. So the same is true for you. Pick what resonates with you. And finally, don't force it. We can only change ourselves, but doing so sets the stage for other changes.
So we want to read another poem that we feel, really speaks to the idea of mindfulness. It's by William Stafford. You reading this, be ready. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor? What scent of old wood hovers? What softened sound from outside fills the air? Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you found. Carry into evening all that you want from this day. This interval you spent reading or hearing this, keep it for life. What can anyone give you greater than now, starting here, right in this room when you turn around?
Now we'll have you consider some final questions. If you're watching the video, after you think about these questions, please fill out the evaluation link below. So what do you think? Are you already using mindfulness for yourself? If so, what impact is it having on your parenting? What do you think about the idea of mindful parenting? How do you think it might change your relationship with the child in your home? Do you have other questions or thoughts about mindfulness? Thank you for joining us, and we hope that these ideas about mindfulness enhance your life.